Hello and welcome to The Queer Gaze, a gay movie podcast dedicated to examining queer representation and issues.
In today's episode, we're continuing our exploration of queer films on the theme of family drama with Bruce LaBruce's 2020 film, Saint-Narcisse. And if you want to hear more of the discussion, including our Chili Pepper Award, please support the show at patreon.com/thequeergaze.
You'll also get early access to regular main feed episodes and loads of extra content.
And you can follow us on social media at The Queer Gaze. Hello, Conrad.
Hello, Joe, and we are back to Bruce LaBruce.
Yes, indeed. So, folks, if you remember, we covered his most recent film, The Visitor, as a bit of a bonus. But now we're really digging into the family drama, aren't we?
Oh, yes. It's very much keeping it all in the family in this one.
I mean, admittedly, The Visitor was also keeping it all the family, but
yeah, that's true.
I feel like I told you off mic that I think we can have a slightly more productive conversation about this movie, in part because I do think this is a more conventional film. Like, I actually read a couple of different Letterboxd reviews that said, you know, where is my punk artist provocateur gone? This is so mainstream for Bruce LaBruce, to which I say, it's still about a lot of familial incest, so, you know, the hard edges have not been sanded off entirely.
Not entirely, no. It's got better cinematography and sound, but it's still very much a Bruce LaBruce film, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if this just has a bigger budget. It's surprisingly difficult to find a ton of information about it, but overall, I found that this was, more commercially oriented and a little bit more audience friendly, but I will admit I liked it a lot more because I feel like it's just going to give us more things to talk about.
So absolutely, yes. Well, give us a synopsis. What's the movie about?
Okay, so as I said, directed by Bruce LaBruce, it was co-written by LaBruce as well as Martin Gerard, and it is a film that's set in 1972, and it focuses on 20-something Dominique, who is played by Félix Antoine Duval, and he discovers that his mother, who he always thought was dead, is actually alive. So this is Beatrice, played by Tanya Contoyani. So he goes on a quest to find her after Grandma dies, and, you know, he finds the secret chest with letters that he never received and so on. So we go off on the motorcycle and discover that she is a witch. She lives in a remote cabin in the woods. She has a mysterious consort, so a young woman named Irene, who is played by Alexandra Petrachuk. So there's that side of the story, but then he's also experiencing visions and seeing hallucinations of a man who looks identical to him, who happens to be, drumroll please, his identical twin brother, Daniel, who of course is also played by Duval. And eventually we discover that he is being molested by Father Andrew, who is played by Andreas Apergis, at a nearby monastery. So everything starts to coalesce because family secrets are revealed, and it's basically a story of incest, vanity, secret lesbian love, and it's all captured in semi-lurid melodrama by Bruce LaBruce.
Of course. So, whereas The Visitor that we looked at in April was a remake of Pier Paolo Pasolini's surrealist drama Tia Rima from 1968, I believe this one is inspired. Well, I know it is because I listened to an interview with LaBruce by Paul Almonds or Almonds. I'm not sure whether his name is French. 1970 drama, The Act of the Heart, starring his then wife, Geneviève Bujold, as a devoutly religious young woman whose charge, she's a nanny, who's the child she's supposed to be looking after dies accidentally. She has a crisis of faith. She admits her secret love for a local Augustinian friar played by Donald Sutherland. They have sex on the altar, and racked with guilt, she self-immolates on a hill.
Yes.
Yes.
I have seen that movie.
Have you? It sounds like a lot, but it's well regarded, I think.
Oh, it's a fantastic movie. Cannot recommend it strongly enough. It's
Really?
very a la mode for Quebec cinema of the 1970s, which is why Bruce LaBruce ultimately sets this film in the 70s. It's a bit of an ode to the films that he found very important to his creative juice as he was growing up. I actually do want to correct myself. When I was editing that episode on The Visitor, I said that he had been working as an artist since the 70s, which is patently untrue. He's been making movies since the 90s, but he would have been growing up through the 70s. So I think he was experiencing a lot of films like Act of the Heart. And yeah, like, I mean, I think he's inherently fascinated by sexual politics. And yeah, he's got a little bit of radicalism in him. He is somebody who likes to push people's buttons, as we said in The Visitor. But like, if you think about it in tandem with something like Act of the Heart, a lot of what then happens in this film isn't that surprising. Like, he's not actually just setting out to be like, ooh, twincest. I mean, he is, because he also... Well, here's something else we should know about Bruce LaBruce, is that he does also make pornography. So he is intimately familiar with the interest and the obsession, even in something like twincest. So you can see him sort of fueling or maybe channeling his creative spirits across two different influences.
Yeah. So he's taking inspiration from a very well-regarded film of the 70s. Mm-hmm. He's also taking inspiration from a very famous pornography genre, the twincest genre, also originating from around this time, I believe. But I don't think this is a pornographic movie at all.
No. I actually expected something quite a bit more salacious, especially considering the way that people were responding to it, the way that people were talking about it. And it's surprisingly tasteful. Like, I'm not going to lie, you're not going to take your mom to see this because it's still going to ruffle feathers. But at the same time, like, I would say that this is a bit of a sexy art film.
Yes, and if you're expecting to see lots of action, I think you'll come away fairly disappointed.
Yes and no, right? Like, when I was thinking about, okay, what are the different things that we can discuss in our chili pepper section over on Patreon, patreon.com/thequeergays, there ended up being a number of scenes where I was like, okay, that's hot, but you're not wrong that ultimately, like, the sexy bits where parts go into each other and stuff, like, this is not The Visitor. We're not seeing fully unsimulated sex. Like, we do see penises. We don't see any vaginas. We don't see any boobs. So in some ways, it's like, I'm going to give you a taste of it, but I'm not going to give you the whole thing.
Yeah. And as I hinted to earlier, the cinematography is significantly different.
Very pretty.
It is very, very
Do you like
pretty.
the Quebec wilderness? Do you want to go to the forest?
Yeah. I'm very impressed. So this is Michel Laveau, who is well-known both in documentary and feature filmmaking, and was somebody that was familiar with the cinematography of the 1970s, so was able to adopt that lighting scheme, color palette, lenses. They're even using the same lenses they would have used at the time.
Oh, wow.
Apparently, Bruce LaBruce and he clashed a fair amount in week one of the shoot. There were quite a few fuck-offs and people walking away from the set, but eventually they found a way to collaborate with each other. I think Bruce LaBruce was wanting to just get on with it, and his cinematographer was lighting things, and choosing angles, and he was just like, let's get on with it. I mean, it still has that rough edge to it. So I noticed that there's a lot of reframing hastily within a shot. There's a lot of zooms, which does feel like an element of 70s cinematography. Yeah. It feels like a hallmark. So that felt like it tied in with what it was trying to go for. But I think it is the color palette and the lighting that really gives you that imbues it with that sense of the 70s.
Yeah, I mean, it's maybe a little pedestrian to say something so obvious, but the whole color scheme of this feels very autumnal, very, orangey brown, maybe some like rotting yellowy colors. And it did remind me of what we saw when we talked about Crazy, which is set in the same sort of time period, right? So I think it's like the 70s vibe is carried through. And then it's also just really gorgeous. Like, as I said, I'm not joking. A large portion of this feels like it's sponsored by Tourism Quebec, come out, experience our woods. But even stuff like the dimness in the monastery scenes, there's some really powerful moments. And obviously, we can talk about how large sections of this feel like they're completely indebted to religious spectacle because it's pulling from the myth of Narcissus, but then also from Saint Sebastian. But like, there's this moment where light shines in through the window onto the players as we're like setting them up as though they're doing a religious tableau. And I couldn't help but just be like, wow, it's really gorgeous. Like, it's very, very pretty.
It is very, very pretty. And also it feels quite right that it should be autumnal because it is following the summer of love. It's following the 60s.
Right.
And very much in a more conflicted era, a difficult time, a time when we're coming to terms with the free love of your parents.
Right.
So that brings us nicely into the family situation, which I was quite surprised to see Bruce LaBruce create a story in which a happily married woman who's expecting her child succumbs to a random pickup in the supermarket.
Yep.
Experiences oral sex in front of a baby that's trying desperately to hide its eyes.
I did love that. It was like, mama's experiencing pleasure. And over here, we've got this child being like, because usually I feel like we see this played for comedic beats with an animal or something. People are having sex and then you pan over and there's the dog just like, hey, what's up? And here it's like the baby saying, Mama, no.
It's hilarious. But I was quite surprised because as an end result of that, of course, there's a conspiracy to split up the family and take the children away from her as punishment and not even tell her that one of her children, both of her children exist. So that's a shocker.
It's pretty dark. I'm curious, how did this work for you? Because some of this is told through stories that we hear over things like the dinner table, but then other elements actually get their own flashback where, we'll talk about Irene, who also plays Agathe, who is the lesbian woman who broke up Beatrice's marriage. But that's kind of inspired and also just, okay. But I'm curious, did the flashback structure work for you, or did you feel like it was just kind of an unnecessary thing? Because I kind of love that we fully changed the cinematography so that it all looks like a hazy dream every time we do a big flashback.
Yeah, and there weren't too many of them,
no.
Actually. I thought it was quite interesting having the same actor play Irene and Agathe because she's introduced by a villager as, Beatrice lives in the woods with this woman who never ages.
Never ages, yeah.
Yes, which I thought was a great intro to a character that plays herself and her own mother. Yeah.
I'll admit, I got a little bit confused about exactly who Irene was because the actress is the same. So there was a moment where I was just like, what's happening here? Is this the same person? What's going on? And then when she says, it seemed like I was being summoned, after Agathe dies, Beatrice seems to summon her almost like she actually is a witch, which the film loves to dance around. It's like there's a witchy properties, but we're not actually casting spells or doing anything like that. But this idea that Beatrice summoned Irene to take her dead lover's place and then also initiates a sexual affair. I was like, to me, that was actually the most provocative thing. Never mind the mutual masturbation between the identical twins in the woods. I was like, hot. Okay, move on. But the piece where you're just like, oh, this woman summoned the daughter of her dead lover to basically just come and take her place. That shit is fucked up.
You see, I wasn't clear whether they actually had an intimate relationship or not.
Mm-hmm. I think you're meant to question it up to a certain point, but then you do see them kiss a couple of times as the film progresses. But it was at a certain point, I wrote in my notes, I was like, so are they fucking? Like, what's going on here? Is it just I miss my dead lover and I want to see her visage around the house? And then it's like, oh no, like, we're going to bed together.
Yeah, okay. Doesn't surprise me. It's interesting as well. It all ties in with the doubling that we have throughout. I mean, even the young child that's like, Mommy, no. She reappears at the end of the movie as Irene's daughter.
Yep.
And presumably the daughter of either David or Dominic or both.
Who could say? Oh my God. That final scene made me laugh so much. It will definitely be in contention for one of our awards when we get over to that discussion on Patreon. I was just like, this is too funny. And so Bruce LaBruce.
Oh, yes. Especially with the choice of song on the soundtrack, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the twins.
The twins, yes. Okay. We had a discussion over DM about the performances in this movie. So I have actually had the pleasure of seeing Félix Antoine Duval in another film. So I'm a member of the Toronto Film Critics Association, and last year we voted on a short list of Canadian films, and then we ended up awarding one of them like our best Canadian film of the year. And it was ultimately not one that he was in, but he was in a film that was in contention called Shepherds, where he plays a young man from Quebec who goes over to France to become a shepherd, and it's quite good. But that film is in French, which is very clearly his natural and preferred language. And I felt like that was a persistent issue with a number of the cast. Like, this is very obviously a Quebec film. These are predominantly Quebecois actors. All the times that they're speaking French, I'm getting way more out of their performances. And then all the times that they're speaking English, it's like 50-50. Sometimes it lands, sometimes it's got emotionality, sometimes the inflection is right. And then there's a whole bunch of times where I just think, why can't we just do this entire movie in French?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In fact, as I said to you, it got to the point where I was questioning whether the performances in French were good or whether it was just because I don't know the language terribly well that I'm not able to judge correctly.
Because sometimes the English stuff is legitimately not good. It feels almost like we don't entirely understand what we're saying, or it was a first pass and it was like, okay, you said the line correctly, but now I need you to put the performance into it. And it's a real shame, because I do think that there are certain parts of it that then take you out of the film because you think, oh, it's giving a little bit amateur community theater vibes.
Yeah, or porn, in fact.
Or porn.
Yeah. Well, and there is another moment as well when Dominic meets Irene for the first time, or maybe the second time, where there's a flubbed line. Dominic says something and steps on Irene's line, and then he stops, and then he says it again, which is, that's a cut, take two kind of situation, but they didn't.
Yeah. I mean, again, this comes back to something like budget and shooting schedule. It makes me wonder, was it that we just did not have the time? Is Bruce LaBruce the kind of person where he says, I don't need the setup, I'm just going to shoot, because I'm a bit more of a guerrilla filmmaker, kind of used to just getting the shot in the can. It doesn't matter if it's perfect. And there are times that I like that. It gives it an immediacy, a kind of vitality, like it has energy to it. But then there are other times where you think, no, just do another take.
Yeah, they had 21 shooting days, so you'd think that would be...
Yeah, that's reasonable for a small independent film.
Yeah, I would have thought so. But besides that, I think you are right. I think when he is speaking French, I think our lead is very capable. And I think he does convincingly play two completely different characters. Yeah. So much so that apparently several people have asked Bruce LaBruce if there are twins in the movie. Because, I mean, they are doing some sort of split screen shots. There's a bit of face replacement in there, 6 or 7 shots of that apparently. And the double is pretty good, it has to be said.
Yeah, so it's pretty minimal, all things considered. Usually when we do a movie like this, it's a lot of post-production kind of stuff. But here, it's interesting. I think I read a different version of the same interview that you were referencing because, yeah, I also got Act of the Heart. But then this interviewer was asking LaBruce, okay, doubling, this is fun, it's also a very Canadian thing. And Bruce LaBruce said, oh yeah, like Genevieve Bujold, she's also in Dead Ringers, where they had to do a ton of doubling for Jeremy Irons. That's the Cronenberg film where he plays doubles, gynecologist. Also great movie, very difficult to watch. But typically what you end up doing in these is it's body double and then split screens, and it's just a lot of like getting the shot set up properly so that you don't have to worry about that. And I like it. I think the doubling, super effective. It's very convincing in this film.
Yeah, I think so. It works. They do just enough to make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, considering what they do together, is quite a feat.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out if the body double was one of the other actors, because like there is a redhead that he encounters who, you know, becomes a minor plot beat with Father Andrew because this boy lodges a complaint and says, you know, he tried to kiss me at the lake. And I thought, they have a similar body shape. They seem to be a similar height. The hair color is just a little bit more red on this guy. But I wondered if it was like, yeah, we can use that guy. We'll just swap up the face.
Yeah, quite possibly. I was a bit horrified, actually. I looked him up, and he's credited on IMDb as Ginger Monk, which...
which I've gotten in trouble for on Horror Queers. Somebody was like, no, that's like dipping a toe gingerly into slur territory. So it was like,
it is.
We don't use that term typically. But I think that's actually very telling, because that's how Daniel, that's the opposite twin, refers to him when he's speaking to Father Andrew. And like Daniel is clearly more of a prick. He's got anger management issues.
Yeah, he is. He is the bad boy, which is odd because Dominic is the one that's on the motorbike with the leather jacket.
Maybe they are twins.
They are. Maybe one's experiencing the other one's angst. I'm not sure. Yeah.
I liked a lot of those moments where it seemed like what one was experiencing, the other one was feeling, or even sometimes seeing, that kind of hallucinatory, I'm catching something in the corner of my eye, or I wake from a dream and I don't know if I was living it or if it was just me projecting. I thought that kind of stuff was actually quite effective as well.
Yeah, it was. And as you say, it does draw quite heavily on its religious imagery too. So there are several scenes. I mean, particularly Saint Sebastian features quite heavily, as often is the case with religious imagery in queer movies. And I mean, some of it did remind me of I don't know if you remember the Robert Downey Jr., Tobey Maguire fake trailer in Tropic Thunder.
No.
For a movie that was called Satan's Alley, which was about the forbidden love between two monks.
Okay.
It did remind me of that for some reason. And yeah, but we also have the imagery of the sacred lake, of course. It's all very E.M. Foster. The monks all go down to the lake and romp around naked and splash each other, which I'm sure is not part of the regular routine of
No.
monks.
I'm curious, do you think that this is LaBruce trying to be provocative and, again, a little bit button pushy by being blasphemous? Because we're in very familiar territory where, of course, if we're going to do some kind of priest or father figure, they are a molester, they're abusing their power. But I thought Father Andrew was more complicated than I initially gave credit to the movie, because I thought it's just, this guy's going to be gross and we're not really going to do anything with it. And he is complicated. Like, I think he genuinely believes that he is in the right for loving this boy and trying to keep him close. It's not just, he's so gorgeous, I want to fuck him. It's, there is a divine element. Like, this boy was sent to me by God.
Yeah, it's different forms of worship. He thinks that Daniel is the reincarnation of Saint Sebastian. And he says to him, "You're my salvation." He believes that this is a religious experience that they are sharing together.
Yeah.
He regularly tortures him in the same way that is depicted of Saint Sebastian in lots of paintings that Wilde loved, apparently. And it is about these religious experiences, these spiritual experiences. So on the one hand, you've got the father and Daniel. You've got, as you mentioned, Beatrice reincarnating Agathe in the form of her daughter and summoning her to be with her. And then, of course, we've got Dominic and Daniel, who are drawn together, quite literally.
Yes.
In a narcissistic way. We even get staring at our reflection and becoming entranced by it. We have the 70s version of selfies with a Polaroid camera.
Love it.
I know, it's great. And some really fabulous lines. Like Irene says quite a few lovely ones to Dominic, like, "You're so self-absorbed you see your own likeness everywhere," when he first tells her about seeing his twin in town. And then when he rejects her for sex at one point, she says, "Fine, go fuck yourself."
Go fuck yourself. It's the best. It is so fucking good. The movie has such a strong, playful vibe to it in lines like that. It's so self-aware, so knowing. You can sense Bruce LaBruce and Gerard just having a laugh when they write that. Like, wouldn't it be funny?
Yeah, it's really enjoyable. I love that a lot. So yeah, it's examining this sort of self-love, this narcissistic ideal between these two beautiful guys, and cross-generational, and then a religious version of it as well. So it's not going for the stereotypes all the way through. It's examining these different types of religious devotion.
Yeah. And it is more complicated, and it feels like the different storylines are feeding into and playing off of one another in ways that I wasn't expecting it, because I honestly just thought it was going to be, it's going to be a bunch of scenes of these boys fucking each other in order to drive the Puritans wild. And it's not. Like, it truly is more complicated than that. And I think more beautiful and contemporary. Like, this movie does want you to sit and think about it, which makes sense why it has so many terrible reviews on things like Letterboxd and IMDb. Like, I was just casually looking, and it's like the people who get this movie, who get Bruce LaBruce, do like it. The people who want it to be a little bit more punk, a little bit more anti-authority and that kind of stuff, they're like, oh, it's a lesser Bruce LaBruce. But the normies, this is like 1-star heaven, where it's just like, it's so boring. It's like porn, nothing happens. The performances are bad. And you're just like, you can just say you don't get it.
Yeah, I know. It's tragic, really. But it must have upset the religious amongst the audience, because apparently it was shadow banned, according to Bruce LaBruce, on Amazon
interesting.
Prime.
Okay.
Yes, it vanished from Amazon Prime for a period. And he was just informed by the distributor that it was due to offensive content. But he had no description of what that might be, so that he might be able to try to re-edit or something. It was just told that it was just not suitable for Amazon's platform, which is bizarre. So I think it's on Mubi now.
Okay, well, honestly, a better fit then.
Well, exactly.
I could say because it's funded by Canadian dollars, because, the Canadian movie making system, the federal government, the provincial government often end up funding these movies, even when they draw the ire of a lot of Canadians who think it's a waste of money, and why are we putting taxpayer dollars into something about incest? Ugh. And it's like, don't forget to watch it on CBC Gem, everybody. You can watch it for free.
And that's all makes it better, I'm sure. Yeah.
Okay. Well, speaking of sexy bits and controversial stuff, why don't we jump over to Patreon and talk a bit more in depth about some of this stuff?
Yeah, come join us.
Okay. And folks on the main feed, just a reminder, it's about $3 a month. So if you want to hear bonus content, it's usually like an equivalent amount of what you're hearing on the main feed. That's our conversation on Patreon. But we have bonus content for each of these episodes, as well as some of our extra episodes that we do on newer films, and then our old reaction videos. So you can still watch all of those over on Patreon. But if that does not interest you, then you can come back in 2 weeks when we pivot and start talking about gay sports movies, Conrad. So look forward to switching the subjects up a little bit.
Yeah, looking forward to some scrums and tackles.